Hello, and for my second video essay, we will be diving into what is neo-realistic cinema, and we will be including 3 directors and 2 films, each with a short synopsis. Alright, so first, defining neo-realism and its emergence post-World War II Italy. Italian neo-realism was a film movement that really took off in the post-World War II era during the late 40s, early 50s. It marked from a departure from like the studio bomb productions that characterized the pre-war Italian cinema. Neo-realism aimed to present a more like authentic, unfiltered life of Italy, using real locations, non-professional actors, addressing major social issues the country had. The movement was really a response to like the war and how harsh the realities of it was. It wanted to show the more real aspects of what had happened, especially during the impacts of Mussolini and fascism, and it desired to spread light, give light, or show the truth to Italian everyday life and things that happened during the war. Overall, I'd say the aim of real neo-realism was just to show off ordinary people's lives, show their true, authentic selves, capture the everyday experience of an Italian and the struggles of normal, everyday people, especially the Jewish people after World War II. Big key characteristics of this neo-realism film style revolved in realistic storytelling. They offered simple, everyday stories that the common people would understand. Like I mentioned before, having use of these non-professional, first-time actors. So by believing their lack of acting ability, you can kind of get a genuine sense for the raw, real emotions during a scene. A lot of films were shot on location instead of using sets. They utilized like the actual like background and city of Italy. Pre-World War II, and during World War II, there was not a lot of social commentary, especially on the government that you can make. So post-World War II, after the government fell, there was a lot of social commentary and political messaging addressing many of the social issues that the country had, including poverty, unemployment, and obviously the impact they had on the world stage after the war. They wanted to engage audiences within a deeper, like, emotional and intellectual level of understanding, and they wanted to minimalize, like, the Hollywood and big budget film, like, studio techniques. They wanted to seem grounded and real in reality, like, so no, like, fancy effects, no over-the-top sets, like I mentioned before, real down-to-earth actors who wouldn't have to, like, fake and be grandiose. They just wanted to capture real life. They wanted to capture real life. The first major director that I want to talk about is Roberto Rossellini. He was a big director in these late 1940s, early 1950s areas. And the first film that I want to talk about is his Rome Open City film. Basically, to give a brief understanding of this film, it is set in a Nazi-occupied Rome during World War II. As during World War II, a lot of Germans had to come down, support the Italian war efforts because they were losing a lot of ground to the Allies during the end of the war. And what this does is it follows the lives of many people under this Nazi regime in Italy and shows how the Italian like resistance movement and how real life people saw the horrors these people were doing and just said no and pushed back against it. It's filmed in a more like documentary style, showing off like the dramatic narrative of, oh, what's gonna happen, like how will people resist. The next of Rossellini's films that I want to talk about is one that he made in 1946 called Paisan. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if it's wrong. This film is more episodic in nature, and it plays more on the liberation of the Italian people and like many people in southern Italy by the American and British like allied forces. It goes through about 6 short stories, each depicting the impact on the war in different regions of Italy and different people throughout it. few of those, like one of those people was like a Jewish person reacting to the war, and some of these people were like, oh, grateful that the Allies were here. Some were pushing back, saying we still want the fascist regime. So it just showed off the many different perspectives people had when the war was coming to an end. All right, so the next director that I do want to talk about is Vittorio De Sica. I think that's how you say it. Again, sorry for the mispronunciations. Not familiar with a lot of these last names. His film I want to talk about is the 1948 film Bicycle Thieves. This is a story about a man searching through his stolen bicycle, as it's essentially his way of living, his day job, his way to make money and live for himself. He the film really delves deep into the like hardships many people faced during post World War II Italy, and the desperation for many people struggling just to make ends meet, especially with the economic instability at the time that the place created, mass amounts of inflation and shortages of many goods. So the next De Sica film that I would like to talk about is Umberto D. It was made in the 50s, 1952 to be exact. The film follows the life of an elderly pensioner, exploring the themes of, Italian loneliness, poverty, and social neglect during post-World War II Italy, as these were major social concerns due to, again, as I said before, economic hardships, how many people didn't like Italy after, like, on the world stage, and even, like, the people who resisted during World War II didn't like the people who, like, were, like, in support of the fascist regime, and, the societal neglect of the government after, like, World War II, and, like, after, like, getting rid of Mussolini, there was a lot of government neglect, so it also explores those themes, too. Alright, the third and final director I want to talk about is Luchino Visconti. The first film of his that I want to talk about is La Terraria Trema, made in 1948. This is, again, a more documentary style film depicting the struggles of a Sicilian fishing family against the economic hardships and exploitations of the government. Like I said before, a lot of these films have similar overlappings. It's just down to the ground, exploring family life, people's individual lives, how they were struggling during these times post-World War II due to all the mismanaging of the government, due to the mass amounts of, like, losses and persecutions of innocent Jewish neighbors, like the mass weight of everything that had really happened after. The last film of Visconti's I want to quickly mention is Bellissima. This is a more satirical and, like, funny take on the film industry as a whole. There was a lot of films during World War II, like, really satirizing, sorry, hard word, the film industry as a whole, because there was a lot of, like, restrictions during, like, the fascist time in power. You couldn't make a lot of political commentary due to Mussolini's brother being in charge, so, like, of the film industry, so you really couldn't talk bad about the government. So Bellissima is a movie that tells the story of a mother and her daughter, and the mother really wants her daughter to become a star, and this movie just really goes through, like, the challenges they face of, like, rising to stardom and becoming well known in Italy, and their individual struggles as a whole. So lastly, the last thing I kind of just want to talk about is neorealism and its impact on Italian society very briefly. Neorealism kind of sought to created a sense of, like, cultural like viewing from within. It showed, like, the Italian culture in its basic, most simple form, and these films, a lot of post-World War II, a lot of political and social commentary in them about the struggles of just daily Italian people's lives, whether it be families, mothers and daughters, people struggling for jobs, people struggling with, like, the economic depression. It just prompted more discussion and more, like, open ideas of what had happened really in the country, and, the overall consequences of the war, and, like, society's inequalities created by the government during the war. It really just became a tool of self-reflection and catalyst for the Italian people to be, like, socially aware of what was going on and what was happening. So that's really it for neorealism. Hope you enjoyed.